This is third hour science, Miss Craig's homeroom class. Today is Monday, April the 6th, and our lesson today is adaptation and natural selection. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about the big picture. Plants have adapted to many different environments, including the water, the desert, and the air. All plants respond to stimuli such as light, gravity, seasonal changes, and disease. Plants can't move. They generally respond to stimuli by changing the way they grow. So today I'd like to read out of our assignment today. At the beginning, it asks, why would a living thing match its background? Wouldn't it be better to stand out? Some living things are hard to see. They're able to blend into their backgrounds. Some have special traits that help them to survive. That means that they are less likely to be eaten. Adaptation is a change in plant or animal traits. These special traits help them to survive. The longer they survive, the more offspring they can have. More offspring means a species has a better chance of survival. Special traits can be passed from parent to offspring. Variations. Every living thing is unique. All living things have adapted traits. There are also variations in the traits. Not all organisms of the same species have the same trait. For example, people. We have different colored skin. Our hair, we have different colored hair. It can be blonde, brown, black. Some people have red hair. Yours is inherited from your parents. Sometimes traits can vary from parent to offspring. That is why we look different from our siblings. These changes are due to mutations. Mutations is a random change. They are natural. Some mutations are harmful. In this case, the organism may not live to reproduce. The trait will not be passed on to offspring. Other variations in traits have no effect on survival. Some mutations can be good for a living thing. Some mutations have great benefits. Imagine being the first moth that can blend into its background. It would have a better chance of survival. It would likely have more offspring. If it does, it may pass a new trait on to its offspring. The offspring may be more likely to survive. Mutations are one way living things adapt to new conditions. Some traits help living things survive. These traits are called adaptations. Cactus, for example, its leaves look like needles. Their shape helps the plant live in dry climates. The needle-like leaves help it to not lose water. Why is that important for the cactus? Cactus live in deserts. They receive very little rainfall or any kind of moisture. So they have to store their water in their large leaves. If they lived in shady conditions, they would need leaves that work extra hard to gather as much sunlight as possible. They gather sunlight in order to make food. In contrast, if a cactus leaves get plenty of sunlight, the leaves can be much smaller. Deserts receive a lot of sunlight. The cactus does not really need large leaves to collect sunlight in the desert. Many adaptations protect living things from harm. The cactus has a large barrel-like body. Some cactuses do. That trait helps it store water. Other adaptations help a living thing. They may help it store or move or gather food. Living things have special features that help them avoid being eaten. Some plants contain poison or just taste bad. Some of them have bright colored flowers which serve as warnings. The same is true for frogs. Some frogs, they're brightly colored. They're usually the poisonous frogs. Have you ever heard of a deer mouse? It is one of Nebraska's oldest settlers. It was there long before people. In fact, it lived in Nebraska before the last ice age. What does this have to do with adaptation? It has a lot to do with it. The last ice age changed the environment. In order to survive, the deer mouse had to adapt. What color is a mouse? Most browns we see are brown. In one particular area, they are not brown. Instead, the mice have a lighter color. Why do you think the lighter color would be a benefit? Well, during the last ice age, glaciers carried in light-colored sand. The sand was deposited on the top of the darker soil. The region is now called the Sand Hills of Nebraska. In this area, the brown mice didn't blend in. They could be seen easily. Predators could eat them. And so they became easy prey. So on the new, once the color of the sand changed, the mice began to change to lighter colors also. This was adaptation. Natural selection favored the light mice, and they were able to live longer. As a result, they had more offspring. They lived longer. Over time, the entire population became light-colored. Today, all the mice in the sand hills are light in color. This change is due to a change in their environment. So, as a lesson summary, different members of a population may have different inherited traits. Some of these differences are due to mutations. Some traits allow an individual living thing to be better adapted to its environment. That individual will be more likely to survive and to reproduce. So again, how do adaptations occur? Some adaptations are due to their environment, whatever it is that they need. The plant has to change, so adaptation is a change in a plant or animal traits that help them to survive. The longer they survive, the more offspring they can have. The more offspring means the species has a better chance of survival. So what does it mean to say that a living thing is well adapted to its environment? Again, very similar. It means that it is going to be able to reproduce more. It is going to have more offspring. They are going to survive longer, and traits will be passed on. So what is a mutation? Mutations are random changes. They're natural. Some mutations are harmful. If they're harmful, an organism may not live to reproduce. The trait will not be passed on. Some mutations have great benefits. As we talked about the deer mice in Nebraska, they change colors to adapt to their environment, to be safer from prey, to have a longer life, and to have more of their species to live on. That concludes our lesson. I do want to remind you about the plant journal. Remember to write the date that you planted it, how you planted it, and what you've done every day after. Date it. I do want it to be turned in. Have a great day.